Hello everyone, welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So this is Seasons of a Magical Life, a pagan path of living, celebrations, festivals, and rituals for the Wheel of the Year by I think it's pronounced Byron, not Brian, guesstimating Ballard. So this is yet another one from the library. I don't have like any kind of a standard when I rent it from the library. I just go through my search, it always brings new results, and I just go down the list and rent, and this was one of those. So saying that, I don't typically even read the back of the book. I just jump in, I read the cover, and that's it, and then I see where it goes. So this book wasn't one of my favorites. It's not the worst. It's a specific style that I'm just not a fan of. So a lot of this is very poetic, flowery language and storytelling, and like, I'm not here to read a story, I'm here for information. And then the rest of the book outside of that, the information is very much contained to a very specific audience. I am not necessarily that audience. So I'm not big on saying like generational things, you know, of like, oh my god, you're such a boomer. For the most part, I'm like, let's not judge an entire generation. You know, like, people are all over the place in every generation, but I couldn't help but think it a few times. Because, like, for example, she is very much living an idealized past. And it's like, great. Like, for example, she talks kind of later in the book that her daughter finally got to move out and was so excited to have, like, modern appliances. A washer, dryer, air conditioning, and a dishwasher. And the only thing that she had had growing up was a washing machine. That was it. Your clothes had to be hung out to dry, and you had to hand wash the dishes, open the windows for AC, and I'm like, living in Utah, I know it's different because she's from, I don't know if she says what state, somewhere in the, is it pronounced Appalachian or Appalachian? There, that region, the Smoky Mountains. And I think, I don't know, do other states call it the Smoky Mountains, or is it just Tennessee? Anyways, I don't know a lot about over there, but the Smoky Mountains region, I don't know what their temperature typically is like, but comparing it for here, that doesn't work. Like, having to live in Utah without AC is rough. Like, it's already had a few days this year, and we're not even, like, really into summer yet, where it's 80+ degrees inside your house. And it doesn't cool off that much. Like, it stays hot. So not having AC is nothing to necessarily brag about. And just open your windows. I'm like, the few summers that our air conditioner has like died and had to be repaired, it is just death. Like, you have to live in the basement where it's a little bit colder and it's still sweating hot. Like, it is awful. And so I was like, that's nothing to brag about. And like, also, she's like, but washing dishes by hand is so great, especially for the arthritis. The warm water's just cozy, and I'm like, or we could just use a dishwasher, because it's right there. Some things you do have to still hand wash. Like, it's not like it's an obsolete thing. There's plenty of dishes I own that say hand wash only, but there's still a lot that you could just put in there, and then be done, and move on with your life. And like, our dishwasher's broke, so we do wash them by hand. But like, why is it on such a pedestal? It was just so weird. And she has that for a lot of things, like this very specific view of life, and like, also, I could never hang my clothes outside, because absolutely not, there's bugs and birds. No. Like, we do hang a lot of our clothes. We have a thing inside to hang them. Now, obviously, Utah being a desert, we don't have to worry about humidity, because it's a desert. It's always dry. Like, it rains, within a few hours, it is back to dry again. So we don't have to deal with humidity, so for us, hanging clothes inside the house is like perfectly fine. I know other places don't have that luxury, but it was just so weird to be like, so like, oh, but look at the old ways, it's so great. And it's like, but no, why? Why? That's such a... Anyways, it was one of the things that really caught me. I was like, oh, okay. But the majority of this book is really centered on this idea of like homesteading and like kind of, I don't know, it reminded me of like the homestead cottagecore people that they want to have their cute little like quaint house and a bit of land, and then to have their own little gardens and again, clotheslines and like, you're reading by candlelight and you have your wood stove and all of that jazz, that is a dream for a lot of people. And if that is you, you will absolutely love this book. It's gonna feel like a warm, cozy hug. If you love suburban and urban life, you're not probably gonna find a whole lot of information in here because it really does pertain to the other crowd. And like, it's not a bad thing, it's just a intended audience thing. And like, for the most part, she talks about the Wheel of the Year for her area. And like, I know a lot of people do that, but it is just kind of annoying where it's like, oh yes, Imbolc, when we start the seeds and the warmth returns, and it's like, no, it's snow. We don't start seeds till now. Beltane season is when you can start planting stuff. Before then, it's gonna snow. And it had snowed up into the end of April. And then May was still cold. And now that we're into June and July, like, it is finally getting warm enough where you could plant stuff and it won't freeze. May is one of those months where it's either gonna go straight into summer, we might have a spring, or it's still gonna be mostly winter. It kind of varies. So like, especially like halfway through the month, it kind of shifts. But like, this didn't follow that, obviously, and was just kind of like, oh, but at Imbolc you can start planting and you're gonna have these things by like Ostara, and these things will grow in the summer and you can harvest these things in the fall. And it's like, cool. Just like, a lot of this book just didn't apply to me as somebody who lives in the suburbs. Like, no. And I don't have a huge urge to have a big garden anyways, so like, if that again is something that you're really interested in, you might love this book. And again, if you love this idea of like a quaint old house that doesn't have like modern amenities, and you just want to live like in a time before the modern world a little bit, like, fantastic, inspirational for you. If you love modern city life, probably not a whole lot in here for you, which is a bummer. I always hope for like the Wheel of the Year books to have more, and they always kind of just jut into like specific directions, and like, that is the crowd that we're aiming towards, and it's just like, cool. I know it's hard to like hit all of the audiences, and like, I do hope that there's more books out there on the topic, but yeah, it was just not the worst. And once I knew that, and it does read a lot like a memoir. It's like an informational memoir because 90% of this book is her stories. And once you get on board with that, I actually ended up liking it more because it was like, oh, it's just her memoir, and like, there's just like little bits of information, kind of like Elemental Witch. That one where, again, it's like mostly a memoir with little bits of information in here. It's fine. Is it the greatest? No. The next book I'm reading is also a memoir, but it's like an official one. It's so much better. So like, it's just one of those things where, and again, her flowery language and poetic writing really got on my nerves. I also do not really like at all any present tense writing. It bothers me so much, and it's a personal pet peeve. And like, that's all of her like storytelling, like prose is first person present tense, and it's like, stop. Like, if you're not familiar with the writing terms, basically that means instead of I walked onto the porch, I walk onto the porch. It's a minor thing, but like, people have their preferred tense, and for the most part everything's written in past tense. It bothered me. It bothered me so much. So anyways, moral of the story, it's not that bad of a book. It's just not one that I particularly enjoyed. And again, if you are that intended audience, you will probably love this book. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.